Okay, so we just watched a video about Heather Gawler. This is a black and white drawing. Here's what the final product will look like, and where you're going to use markers and colored pencils. So I'm going to go ahead and draw mine in a Sharpie so that it's a lot easier for you to do and see than if I use a pencil. To start with, you want your paper horizontal in front of you. Horizontal means sideways. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a horizon line. And again, the horizon line is where the sky meets the ground. Heather Gawler was kind of a folk artist and was probably inspired by some farms. So I'm going to start out with, and you don't have to do, but I'm going to do a barn and a silo in my background. And again, I'm using super easy shapes. It's one of the perks about folk art is that it was very simple. And again, Heather Gawler's trees are amazingly simple, because they really do just kind of look like popsicles or lollipops. And then in the background, I am going to do a sunset, or it can be a sunrise. And these are the radiating sun lines. And maybe just because I like lots of detail, I'm going to add a fence over here. Now, we just looked at some of her artworks, and if you remembered, some of them had a lot of detail in the sky. I'm going to keep it pretty simple. But from the video, we also saw this is going to be the rows, and I'm going to kind of curve them, and I'm going to use a little bit of perspective in that they're smaller in the back and they get bigger as they come to the front. So you guys would be drawing all of this in a pencil. When we're finished, I'm going to use both a thick and a thin Sharpie. If you've got both a thick and a thin Sharpie, I love that because I love the contrast between thick lines and thin lines. And then in each of these spaces that I have, I'm going to come up with a different pattern. Your patterns can be anything. Patterns are just something that get repeated. So you can use lines. And again, I love sometimes the contrast between a thick and a thin Sharpie. So even on this one, if I do lines here with a thick Sharpie, I can come in between and do something with a skinny Sharpie. And that's a nice contrast. You can also use color to create your patterns, and we are going to do a lot of coloring. Maybe this tree is going to be my apple tree. Maybe this tree is going to be like a pine tree. And sometimes it is kind of hard to think about all the patterns. This is my wooden barn, so I'm going to draw the slats of my wooden barn. My silo's round, so I'm going to draw kind of a curved line to make that look round, and I'm going to give myself a barn door. Oh, and of course, we've got to have a weather vane with a chicken on it. Then you got to think of a bunch of patterns for all of your rows. And in that video, it talked about, some of the plants and how those plants can give you a different texture. So again, when all else fails, you can do shapes and lines, make easy patterns that you're going to fill your whole page with. So this is like a 2-day project. Today we'll spend most of our time drawing with pencil. I don't want you to do your patterns in pencil because that would take too long. But I want you to draw your horizon line, your barn, your trees, and your rows in pencil. And then when you're done with that, you can come back and get some Sharpies to start outlining. Do not do your patterns in pencil. That would take forever and ever to then go back and trace over. Again, your patterns and your lines can be super simple. Sometimes really awesome patterns. Maybe this is supposed to look like a wood grain or some water. So again, you're going to fill it with patterns. So this is what your final product will look like. And then when we go to color it, we're going to color each of our patterns a different color. You took all the time to create all these great designs, so then we're going to use different colors of markers and color pencils. And look at this one. This one was just a dot, but I used marker to create a pattern with color.